Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending the conference and for attending our session. My name is Ebacher. Like was mentioned before, I'm the front-end development team lead and supervisor for a group of very talented front-end developers within the Division of Information Technology, or as we call it, DO-IT, at the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
I'm Cathy Riley. I'm the project manager for what's called the WPCampus service, and that is a centralized WordPress implementation for sites across campus.
We're going to talk to you today about our migration process from an application or content management system called OpenText, also known as Red Dot, into WordPress. But before we get there, I just wanted to go over some logistics. I think we went around the room earlier to make sure that everybody had some paper and pens. We're going to be doing a little activity. Again, to remind you to post questions to the session page. We have a lot of content to cover, so I don't know that we'll actually have a formal Q&A at the end of the session. And please, please, please do provide feedback. It's very helpful for us to learn how we did and where we can improve. Without further ado, today we're going to take you on a journey of a set of significant changes that our team has gone through over the last year and a half-ish. Throughout this journey, we hope to show you how important clear and effective communication and thoughtful planning are. We're going to introduce you to some strategies that we use to accomplish our goals in the given timeline and talk about continuous integration and how it pertains to our entire workflow and process, not just code, development, or the technologies. So, don't you just love participating in activities that reinforce the topic that people are talking about? Super sarcasm, right? Don't worry, we're not going to make you get up and move around or even talk to the person next to you. So take out that paper and pen, and what I want you to do is write your signature on the piece of paper 10 times. When you're done, please put your writing utensil down so that we know when to move on to the next step.
And if you don't have pen and paper, just pretend. Can you do Jeopardy music here now?
I don't know. All right. Looks like most everybody is done. So I want you to switch hands with your writing utensil. And again, write your name or your signature 10 times. Put down your pen when you're done so we know when we can move on to the next step.
Like twice as long.
In my notes, I have allow 2 to 3 minutes for this. Oh my God. It's a struggle. I know. We did it.
It's a lot harder, isn't it?
Plus, of course, here and extra. All right. Looks like about everybody is done. One last time, turn your paper over and sign your name again 10 times.
No direction given.
I'm hearing pens being put down. Show of hands. How many people went back to your dominant hand? Yeah, pretty much the whole room. Nice job. Most folks go back to doing what's easy. It's the path of least resistance. Now imagine for a moment if you couldn't go back to using your dominant hand anymore. Well, that's what happened to us. We couldn't go back to doing what we were used to doing. OpenText was being decommissioned, and that was the basis for our change and a majority of our challenges. Change is hard. However, change is inevitable. So what is change? By definition, the word change is a verb, something we do. According to dictionary.com, change is to make the form, nature, content, future course, etc. of something different from what it is or from what it would be if left alone. It's not enough to say that we all work in technology in some form or fashion, and so change is inevitable. Change is a part of everything we do and everything we don't do. Even though it's extremely difficult, wouldn't it be great if you could shift how you accomplish tasks in your everyday lives just to get a little bit more time to spend with ourselves, our families, our friends, in our professions, or some other important goal? Well, of course, unless you're impeached.
All right, well, thanks, April. Change is hard, we get it, right? What we really want to know is how do we get started? So a little bit of history on our project. There was a UW-Madison campus CMS committee that was tasked with determining what would be the best CMS to centralize for campus to use. Their decision was based on a variety of factors, including customer surveys, features, and ease of use. And the decision to offer WordPress as a solution for the central campus CMS service was made in November of 2016. Once this decision was made, our processes began. And our challenges included, we had to put a new WordPress service up and ready to go. It needed to be designed and implemented. Processes needed to be written. Team members needed to be trained. Many of us had never even touched WordPress before. Customers needed to be trained because they were familiar with OpenText and had not used this before. And many hands needed to be held. The new service that we did went live on January 12th, 2017, so less than 2 months we were able to put it up. The migrations from the websites of OpenText into WordPress began on January 12th of 2017, and we had 250 sites in OpenText. Each site owner needed to be contacted and scheduled for migration. Migration of the sites, unfortunately, could not be automated. We tried. There was no way to do it. OpenText is so different from WordPress and the templates were so different that there was no way to do it other than recreate everything and copy and paste the content. And site requirements varied. We had some sites that had thousands of pages and images. We had at least 2 sites that had over 3,000 PDFs that needed to be re-entered and relinked. So it was really quite daunting when we started. The time frame for the migration was tight. All sites needed to be moved off of the OpenText infrastructure by the end of the calendar year of 2017. And as word got out about the new service and excitement grew about the new service, new customers started coming to us. So during the migration time frame, 240 new sites joined the service as we were migrating 250 old sites. So we had to put processes in place that allowed us to support not only the migrating customers that we were traumatizing, but the new customers that were extremely excited to come use our service. So we set some end goals. We wanted to meet the deadlines to migrate, to get the new service set up and to migrate the customers. This was extremely important because we had budgetary constraints that required the decommissioning of the old hardware and software, and there were political concerns which made the deadline even more important. Initially, we implemented a multi-site environment using what we call the UW theme, which is a new look and feel that the university was promoting, and we've added a standard set of plugins. Being unfamiliar with all of this presented its own challenges, but we're just putting it as one single one. And although initially we were honestly just trying to survive this change, we did also want to promote a positive user experience for a site administrator, a site editor, and for visitors viewing the site. We also wanted to create and nurture relationships with our partners across campus as we implemented the service. We also decided that we wanted to provide a base of knowledge for accessibility, usability, development best practices, digital publications, and other web-related things for the campus at large. And that was whether it was web customer or not. This service was funded by the departments across campus, and so we wanted to make it so that they felt like their funding was going to something that they could use. And, so there we are. We have our challenges, we have our end goals, we're pretty much done, right? We can walk away. April?
That's funny. Not even close. So how on earth are we going to accomplish this? Where do we start? Who knows what they're doing? What do we do next? How do we get there? Anybody else think this is totally crazy? These are all questions we asked ourselves. They're questions we asked our team members. They're questions we asked folks outside of our team and outside of DoIT. Scott Plesky, and I think I said his last name right, is the Chief Product Officer at Adobe. And he likes to say, we love talking about starts and finishes. Even though the middle stretch is the most important and often most ignored and misunderstood. We don't talk about the middle because we're not proud of the turbulence of our own making and the actions we took out of despair. That's pretty powerful. I'm a firm believer in the message, in order to achieve order and organization, you have to create chaos. My partner will tell you, in these moments, he tends to vacate the premises. For the next 8 to 10 months, this is where we spent our time, in the messy middle. Bit by bit, we made progress towards completing our goals and solving problems we identified. In order to get anyone to jump on your bandwagon, you need to tell your story. What's the vision? Why is it important to the individuals you're asking for buy-in from? These stakeholders and or the audience you're talking to needs a different version of that story, a version of the story that provides value to them. This persuasive communication should happen early, often, and remain consistent based on the goals that you've defined. Some of our stakeholders were all of us team members. We needed to understand why we were being asked to go on this journey and believe that the outcomes and goals were of value to us. Our current customers, they needed to know how their needs and expectations would continue to be met with the service, and that this change was going to produce an easier way for them to get things done. For our possible future customers, they needed to understand what would be available to them through the service and how they could use it. Campus overall, well, they needed to know everything we just talked about. The campus community was excited about the move to WordPress for WhiskWeb, though they were a bit unsure if we could meet the deadline, given how quick it was, and do it with a high level of quality service. We needed to work collaboratively across campus to ensure that the requirements for the service were understood and met. Fortunately, though, we didn't need to start from scratch, which was awesome. Months before this migration initiative began, we had noticed a pattern around the different schools and colleges and departments where they were developing one-off sites using a variety of resources, technologies, and coding practices. We saw and encountered some pretty major risks. Some of those included hosting their own WordPress instances and not upgrading and maintaining them. Buying themes from Theme Forest and then modifying them to fit their needs, which usually doesn't end well. Using development resources that maybe didn't understand the impact their decisions had on accessibility, coding best practices, cybersecurity, etc. Asking for help from third-party vendors who really didn't understand the problem, nor did they understand the user needs. We could go on. As a grassroots effort, our team of front-end developers partnered with our campus marketing team to capitalize on a recent redesign of the main whisk.edu site. We built a component-based theme with an extensive page builder to allow content editors the ability to build rich, dynamic content and layouts. During the development of the theme, we used data from the CMS service to kind of put forth what components and features we wanted to build within the theme. So cool, we got a theme. What do we do now? At the time, our existing content management system, OpenText, Red Dot, whatever you want to call it, it was on a Microsoft environment. Something we knew how to do. And now we needed to use Apache. What? What the heck is a multi-site? Some of the developers had come from other backgrounds where the content management system that they used was WordPress. However, usually multi-site is not the first thing that's recommended when you're building a WordPress site. So we didn't have any experience there. And so what about plugins? There are so many plugins out there. We needed to decide which ones we wanted to provide to all of our customers. Which ones did we want to support? Understanding that one of the main contributors to website bloat and performance is how many plugins you have active on your site. Whether or not you use them is another question, right? It's a fine balance. As I mentioned before, we had a theme that was robust, vetted, branded, and followed best practices in standards development, usability, and accessibility. And who's heard of child themes? We had to develop those too. Without going into the nitty-gritty, trust me when I tell you we had to create a child theme for every site that was on the service and was going to be on the service. Okay, let's figure that out. So if you build it, they will come, or so the saying goes. At every turn, there was either an existing process that we needed to modify or a process that we needed to build. This was actually pretty incredibly cool because we were the ones being able to make all the rules. The messy middle allowed us to develop processes as a team, validate them as a team, and move them to production as a team. These were our building blocks for success. They were tangible pieces we could share back with our stakeholders and audiences to prove we were moving in the right direction. What we had been communicating all along. Everybody likes process, right? No, not everybody likes process. Process directly affects change. Change directly affects process. We've all heard the comment, well, this is just the way we've always done it. I don't know about you, but this list up here, that's pretty daunting. In the workshop I attended yesterday, Shelley Keith stressed the concept of continually moving the needle forward and celebrating those wins, no matter how large or small the feat is. Lesson learned, we should all definitely remind ourselves to stop and celebrate the accomplishments as they happen. There's one more process that you don't see up there. This one has been developed on the backbone of all of those other processes, and the one that continues to be one of the most important.
That's right, you guessed it, it's our migration process. Now we needed to go through each of the 250 sites, document what needed to be done on the site. That required us to look at the site. How many pages did they have? How many images did they have? How many documents were they using? How were the menus set up? What would be the best way to structure the content that was in one type of format into the new theme? And then how able and willing was each of the site administrators or site editors to go through this process with us and manage the new sites? We identified each page and created a corresponding new page. We used a lot of spreadsheets for this. We would have the old page, the new page, and what the URLs for both, so we could then use that for our redirections. We set up new menus. We started copying and pasting the content from the old site to the new site. We tried to keep the page URLs as consistent as possible for easier redirects. And we used many of the different content areas in the new theme, and we taught each of the new WordPress users how to do that and use the new templates. We did promise customers we would make their new sites function as closely as possible for their old sites. We did this again, I would not make that promise. However, for some customers, even though we had promised, we just couldn't do it. Their sites were too highly customized. OpenText allowed us to basically put in place whatever the customer wanted, whether it was a really good idea or not. The new UW theme, for a lot of really good reasons, does not allow that. And so we had to take some of these customers' custom sites and manipulate them into the new site, which meant we really had to go through the content. We had to work with the customers to determine what content was really important and how that would be the best way to strategically place that content. For sites that we could do, though, the developers did go in and customize the UW theme in a child theme, so they could change the colors, they could change some of the functionality, they could change the font if they needed to. Sometimes, honestly, a customer has to have blue instead of red. We don't understand, but it happens. The customer reaction to this process was mixed. Some people started right away. They were in there the first day, they were making their changes, they were creating their sites, they were doing everything themselves, and they finished their new sites within a week. So we had our first site go live within a week of the production date for the service. Others required some assistance, but did most of the work themselves. So once they understood what the new theme was, once they understood how they could structure their content into their menus, they took off and they went. Some of them, we needed to do the sites for them. Either they requested it or we just did it because they weren't paying attention to us, because we did have many people that just honestly ignored us until we got really annoying. And we did get really annoying. We followed up, and we followed up. We were never terrible. I mean, we're always pleasant and extremely helpful, but we were persistent. And so we did get a lot of people to migrate that way. As a team, for how do we divide and conquer, we worked together from a list of the sites, from all the documentation that we had, so we weren't tripping over each other. So if I picked up a site, I put my name to it, and I documented it, and everybody else did the same thing. Communication on the team was key. And as we went through this process, we learned. We learned about the theme. We learned about WordPress. We learned about customer personalities. We learned and we learned and we learned. So strategies. Strategies are where we turned our challenges into opportunities. Our strategies were critical, not only for the success of the service that we were offering, but honestly for the health of our team. Our team was under a great amount of stress going through this process. And so I really can't emphasize enough the importance of open and honest communication. It afforded us the ability to persuade and motivate our customers and our staff to meet the tight deadline. I was asked on numerous occasions, can't we push the deadline back? And sometimes it would have been really easy to say yes. The answer is no, it can't go. And so once people were really understood that that deadline was not moving, then they started to get creative and get motivated. It was also extremely important for us with collaboration with our partners across campus and also for the campus leadership, that they knew that we were on task and we were going to do what we said we would do. The opportunity that came out of this is it allowed us to help customers across campus use the UW theme, whether or not they were WISWeb customers. We were able to consult with customers on user experience, on content strategy, and accessibility in this new template where the features actually were provided for them. Workflows allowed us to thoughtfully combine our processes into larger processes to help meet those end goals we had identified. We developed workflows with our testing, our training and support, and our development sprints. We integrated these strategies for migration, and we also discovered that workflows are living entities that require quite a bit of care and feeding. The opportunity here was we got to try new approaches, we got to use new techniques, and we really became more fluid as individuals and as a team. Onboarding strategies we learned early were not only important for our migrating customers, but also for new customers and actually for new team members. During this process, we did have team members leave. We did have new team members join. We wanted to provide a clean and manageable onboarding process that allowed everyone, customers, old customers, new customers, and team members to become effective in the environment as quickly as possible. The opportunity here was we got to redesign one of the processes of training scope for all of campus. We offered a UW-themed basic WordPress training for all users on campus. We created open labs that we have twice a week where anybody on campus can come sit in a computer lab with us and work on their sites. They can ask questions about the UW theme. They can talk with the developer about some of the things they're thinking. They can get content strategy consultation. They don't have to schedule an appointment. They can just drop in. They're drop-in labs. We also had people that came into those open labs and didn't talk to anybody. They just needed a quiet place that nobody in their office could bother them. So we also did things like Google Analytics training. We realized we had a lot of people that were putting Google Analytics code in their sites, and they were getting those statistics, and then they were looking at it. They had no idea what they were for or how to use them. So we developed a training. Now that you have it, what do you do with it? And that was very widely attended across campus, and we're coming up with the new trainings. We're going to do on accessibility. We're going to do on user experience, a whole variety of different best practices type things for people to get familiar with their web design. And we did implement new techniques and tools for our issue tracking and resolution. And this was really fluid for a while because we would try something and be like, parts of it are working, parts not so much. And so as we learned, we were able to adjust and modify both the techniques and the tools that we were using for our development processes and for our customer support. And our opportunity right here is ongoing because as we go from 250 sites to 2,000 sites probably by the end of this year, we're going to have a different process in place for our support because we have to support 10-fold, 1,000-fold more customers, but crazy enough, we're not getting any additional staff. Can you believe it? So success is sweet, right? The old service was decommissioned on 12/31/2017 at 8 o'clock at night. Did you see the fireworks? There's nothing. Nobody cared. You know why? Because everybody was migrated. We just turned it off. It was no big deal. We have continued to maintain, support, and add features to the UW theme. The WISWeb customer base has made suggestions. The WISWeb team has provided feedback. And together, customers and team, we have requested updates and changes to the UW theme based upon requirements across campus. The lesson here is our voices are much louder and stronger together. The developer sprints timeframe and structure have changed over time as we have learned more about our abilities to complete work in specified time periods. When we started, we were far more ambitious than we should have been. Now we know that when we say we're going to work on this in 2 weeks, we know about how much we can do in those 2 weeks. So we're not shoving the same thing from sprint to sprint to sprint. We continue to be more productive, and this benefits the campus and it benefits our customers. Going through this process together has strengthened our relationship with our campus partners, our customers, but most importantly, our team members. I have heard from several people across Stewart and across campus that everybody wants to be a member on the WISWeb team, that we act like a family, and we do. And we have started retrospectives, which are looking at the processes that we have in place. What worked, what didn't work, what could we do better next time, how's everybody feeling right now? And that's working really well for us. So continuous integration. We have expanded the service. At 12/31/2017, we had about 500 sites in WisWeb. We now have over 700 just in the WisWeb service alone. We've added what's called a service level 2 option, where technically competent people across campus representing a department can actually, in the infrastructure, put in their own multi-site. What we do is we manage then the WordPress core, we manage the UW themes and the plugins that we've vetted, but then they can add on top of that. So they can add additional themes if they want to support it, and they can add additional plugins if they want to support it. And in this case, as of this one, we have 2 additional multi-sites that have over 200 sites in those, and over the summer, we're going to be getting 3 more. Then we're going to stop for a little bit and then take a breath. And in January of next year, we'll start that process up again. We have a campus governance process that's coming into place, a group, and that will be starting soon. And we are beginning to collect metrics to show where we started and where we're going so we can measure success, failures, progress, no progress. And then there was the next change. So in March, we were tasked with moving the entire implementation into Amazon Web Services. Sounds easy, right? Well, you know how we didn't know WordPress? We knew even less about Amazon Web Services. So we had to create new processes. We had to update our existing processes. We had to completely revamp our deployment, the deployment of changes, of plugins, of updates. So it's now going through Jenkins automation, and we are forming new campus partnerships because of this. In June of this year, because we didn't have enough going on, we decided to send out a customer satisfaction survey to all of our WisWeb customers. It's something we wanted to do for a really long time, and why not, right? So we sent the survey out to anyone that had site administrator, editor, or editor access in our multi-site instances, a little under 2,000 people. We had over 200 respondents to the survey, and the results I just saw are very positive. There were sections that asked them to rate their training, the support, the overall service offering, as well as sections for what we could do to improve the service. Each of the areas provided an open comments question. Tell us what you think. Is there more you'd like to share with us? In the section on customer support and service, over 50% of the respondents, so over 100 people, provided open comments. Every single one was positive. What you're seeing here are 2 of my favorites that we had. We also received from the survey excellent feedback on what we can do to improve our service going forward. Where would the customers like to see us go? What did the campus feel is important? And we're going to target those areas for implementation this upcoming year. And then we're going to use this data that we got in the survey as benchmarks going forward for the WisWeb piece of the service. And I would love to share with you everything I got, but I can't because I haven't shared it with the team yet, and they're watching on streaming. So I'm going to wait for them to do it. So what did we learn? Be honest. Stick to your goals without wavering, and above all, be flexible. And as Louis said, Pat Pierce, if the plan doesn't work, change the plan, but never the goal. And we changed the plan a lot, but the goal remained. It never changed. Now, migration and our team was highlighted by the UW-Madison Division of Information Technology as one of its major accomplishments for the year of 2017. The people that are interviewed in the video we're going to share with you are some of our customers who had dramatically different requirements during the migration process. But what was important to us is that their experience with migration were similar. So, where do we unmute it?
Turn the room sound on.
I did. Is it maybe mute screen? No.
being difficult. We apologize.
Let us have some fun to the
There we go.
Yay!
Perfect.
We're gonna blast the ears off of the folks who are streaming live.
After years of providing support and consultation on the OpenText content management system, a cross-campus committee decided that it was time to move to WordPress as the supported CMS. It was a welcome move, but created the daunting task of moving over 200 sites from OpenText into WordPress, and a little less than 12 months to do it.
So at the end of February, we found out that they were going to have to be moved by the end of 2017. So that was a shock.
And you know, that was just the way it was. OpenText was going away, we were gonna have to learn WordPress, and I had absolutely really no qualms about it because I already knew the WizWeb team was going to be there every step of the way.
During the move to WordPress, the WizWeb team provided training, support, and consultation to existing users. However, the heaviest lifting of this process was the assistance that was provided during the migration. There were hundreds of web pages that needed to be recreated and thousands of files that needed to be moved. Some sites required more attention, using web application integrations or NetID protections.
They had someone who was kind of dedicated to helping us out, answer our questions, help us move some content, build some of the more dynamic, interactive elements.
They understand that they are working with people who may not know anything. And they also know that they are going to work with people who know lots about their sites. They can work with anyone on that spectrum. That is a huge benefit to this campus.
Each migration was unique, and the team worked with customers to help ease the transition and make the experience the best it could be.
We had a front page that tried to capture everything we do at Weissman, and then helping us reimagine how do you make that front page work in the WordPress template. So that was a huge piece of it.
There were certainly questions as to whether we make it or not, but we did. 185 sites, content and all, were migrated into WordPress. And during that time, we also brought on 240 new sites that also required training and support. Most important, the team met that impossible deadline, and on December 30th, the migration was complete.
This WordPress platform is incredibly efficient and makes everything so much easier to update quickly and efficiently.
The level of comfort they give you, knowing that they're available, that if things go wrong, that they're going to be there to help you is, it'd be hard to overvalue or to overstate how important that is.
That's Matt, our trainer. He's awesome.
Just to give you a little bit of perspective, on the 185, we actually did only migrate 185 into WordPress. The other sites either weren't being used, were no longer needed, or went off into, we migrated those into departmental sites. So they all had to be moved. Also, we talked about all that we did. We had 3 people total doing the training and the support during this entire time. We had 5 developers working on it and 1 application administrator. So it was a very small team.
Thank you. So I guess we have about 5 minutes left. Are there any questions or anything we can help answer? You can tell we're pretty proud of what we accomplished.
You guys mentioned issue tracking and resolution and trying out several different tools. What did you guys settle on?
So we use Jira. The campus has, our shared tools division in Do It has a license for everyone. So all of our projects use Jira. We try to use the agile methodologies as much as possible. Obviously, it's not always the preferred way to do it when you're working with maybe other stakeholders that don't know how to use Jira. Jira is not exactly the easiest user experience, but
And then we also use Sharewell for incident tracking for our help desk. Sharewell, Cherwell.
Any other questions? How many people are on your WISP team?
About 10. Thereabouts.
I mean, obviously you guys are really happy, so it's a big number. Did you ever worry that that was too many or?
well, so we weren't always 10. When this initiative first started, there was 2 developers, 3 support folks, and 1 application provider. correct?
And we do want to be clear, the developers are not strictly WISP, they do a variety of other things. So they work with us, but we don't have them full time. We have, the application administrator is 50% time, he does other things as well. As a project manager, I'm full time on it, and we have a support person and a training person that are full time on it. So we have added developers in Do It, our developers work on a cost recovery basis. So when they are not working on, WISP pays them, the team pays them for their work on the team, but then they also get paid by other customers. So if we have a customer that wants significant customizations, then that customer has to pay for that work. WISP only pays for their work if it can be applied to all customers or to the UW theme itself. And we did have a couple students at one point just to help with a lot of the copy and paste, but we no longer have them. And we will not be getting any new employees, so we have to figure out how to do this without getting new employees.
How do you keep track when you're doing the transfer from one to the other? How do you ensure that you have a quality transfer?
Well, we did, it was kind of an interesting process. We did in a spreadsheet, put every single page of the site in, created every single new page so we knew we didn't miss them. Because, if you go through a site, sometimes the links to new pages are buried, they're not in menus. They may not be anywhere, but somebody has the link for some reason from the past. And so we made sure that there was a corresponding page for everything that existed. And that was the initial part. But then, as customers started consolidating their content, pages were eliminated, but we wanted to make sure we had what that page was so we could redirect it to where the new page was going to be. We worked very closely with the customers. And I can tell you on the sites that we did ourselves, because there were a significant number of sites that we just did and then handed over to customers to keep the process moving. The customers, although they didn't create the original site, once it was in there and they could see what it looked like, they got actually very excited about playing around with it. And we would go in a week later just to see how everything was and be completely different. But the initial site that went forward was at least similar or better quality to the site that they had. Does that answer your question? A little bit? Not really?
I mean, say you have a bunch of content, right? A ton of content. You need to transfer it to these new pages. Were you having your customers just do that for themselves? It sounded like you did some of them, but
I think
how do you
it was a
ensure there wasn't
combination.
typos, or how do you make sure you have quality content? I guess is my question.
As the WISWeb team, we didn't. We copied what was there and pasted into the new. We have told our customers over and over again that the content is their responsibility. Mostly because I don't know what the Center for Limnology does. There would be no way for us to know if that is quality content or if it's gibberish, right? We have a lot of scientific, a lot of engineering sites in WISWeb, and I read them. And honestly, one of the best things about being on this team outside of the actual work is seeing what the university is doing with these websites. They're incredible. They're amazing, the type of research that we get to see and the type of content that we actually get to read just as we're correcting the sites or previewing them or anything. A lot of which I didn't even understand or knew existed. And so that was the benefit of it. But no, the content is completely on the customer.
And I think as a part of the different types of training that we're offering, we're trying to get people to be responsible for their own stuff and to understand what it means to develop good content, use best practices, think about their users. On some of these sites, we took it as an opportunity for them to really do an inventory of what was currently there, clean up all of their media files, clean up their content. You can understand why some of our customers had to be dragged along a bit.
The other piece too, though, is as IT professionals across campus, they're working with faculty members, right? So a faculty member in history feels that these syllabi from the 1800s are critically important to the website because it's historical and for the Department of History. So that type of content is there. Even if we said, yeah, maybe you don't want that on your website, maybe you want that somewhere else. Faculty wanted it there. And so it's kind of an ongoing balance, at least at University of Wisconsin-Madison, where you balance what the faculty really feels is important against what really is probably the best practice. And you land somewhere in the middle, usually.
I think we're 1 minute over our time. Thank you guys for listening to us. And we have some links up there. The first one is linked to the presentation, the next to our sites on campus. And if you have any other questions, feel free to email us and definitely post them on the session page on the conference site. Thank you very much.